How are you? So glad that we have our time again this week. I realize that I'm happy to come on during a time where there is so much busyness going on in your lives, and you having to transition from work, whether you're going to work or coming from work, or that your favorite programs may be on, and I'm excited regardless, because I know that even if you can't join me right now, that more than likely you will have the opportunity, as we say, in the rebroadcast. I just want to thank you all so much for just stopping by and having a little chat. We're going to be talking about transitioning from one season to the next. And tonight we want to talk about transition from your season without bitterness. We realize we talk about seasons, we know that we're not just talking about the elements, the seasons of the year and that sort of thing, but transitioning in your life. There's seasons for, even in nature, we know that there are the 4 seasons, but we have different seasons in our lives also. Whether some say that we are in the winter season of our life, where everything is seem to be hidden. You know, you have to bundle up more, take time for focusing and just getting in gear, getting prepared for the new year. That's what the winter season is. And then in the summertime, it seems like everything is just hot off the press. You may be going through your season of summertime where everything seems to be just flowing just rapidly, and everything seems to be easy breezy. Or maybe you're in your spring season where the blossoms are just blooming. You're just getting started in your businesses. You may just be getting started in your relationships. But you are about to go to a new season. That season cannot stay the same. So how do we get the most out of our season? One, you have to know that you didn't fail or make a mistake. If what you are experiencing seems to be that you're not getting the results that you sought after, and maybe it appears that you're alone in your endeavors, and that those that started out with you decided that they wanted to abandon ship. It feels that you have been rejected. But know that you didn't fail. If you have done everything that you were supposed to do, you know this is your calling. You know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you didn't just happenstance, just come about a quick decision. You didn't decide that this is just a fly-by-night endeavor. This is what you want to do beyond anything. You're never going to, whatever it is, and you know that you could do this thing for the rest of your life and never ever have to get paid for it. Then you know you're on the right track. And just because things don't appear to be what you thought they would be, you didn't fail. You did not fail at all. There are a lot of decisions that we made that did not result in the outcome that we desired, that we thought that it would. But it didn't mean, even in a relationship, you have become intimate, you have been in a relationship for a long period of time, and then maybe your spouse, your partner, your loved one decided that they couldn't stay. They decided that they have changed, or that you might have changed, and it leaves you feeling that what loss? What is it about me, or what could I have done differently? And even in your businesses, you start out and everything is just wonderful. And all of a sudden you don't get the orders that you had once gotten. It doesn't mean that your brand wasn't a great one. It doesn't mean that your quality of product wasn't to that level of perfection. It just may mean that you are now having to transition to something else. You may have to take inventory, like we say, take stock into what you're doing, and communicate with someone that you may have to pass that mantle to. Another thing you need to know during your time of transition, know that you are here because you've completed one part of your assignment, and that the Lord is now taking you to the next part. It doesn't mean that where you were means that you were stuck there. It doesn't mean that you're never going to accomplish anything more than what you're seeing now. You're just in transition. And we hear all the time, seasons change, and we know that's true. Seasons do change. There's nothing going to stay the exact same, regardless of what. Even your relationships, those that are loving and kind and you communicating, even that loving relationship changes to go and grow better and deeper. It doesn't stay at the same plateau. Know that your wilderness is not punishment, but it is preparation. God wants to not only release you out of a season, but also into the next season. In your out of season, turn your cocoon into a sanctuary and not a prison. I mean, like if you at that time in your life where it seems like nothing is happening the way that you thought it should. And like I said, it feels as if you have been isolated. It may feel that you have even been rejected or abandoned because those that started out with you decided they didn't want to stay. For whatever reason, it doesn't mean that you are a failure. It means that there's another part of you, another dimension to you. And you have to take that time to see what it is that you want to do beyond what you're doing now. And if it is something that you at the right place at the right time, and it is, and if you are doing exactly what you were called to do, still, if that is, you see that the results, the end results, or the product that you produce is not getting you the feedback, or it's not giving you the how can we say it, the profits that you were seeking, or you know that you are definitely capable of receiving, then just take inventory. Find out. Just go back over your plans. What were your goals? What was your purpose to even start this? Like we said, whether it's a business, whether it's a relationship, those that are in ministries. What was your purpose? What are you looking to gain? What are you offering others? What can you receive from others? Another thing, don't adopt a spirit of criticism. See, because when we're going through something, we hear the adage or that hurting people hurt others. But when you are transitioning, don't allow that time to cause you to be critical. And we're not just talking about you being critical of others, but being critical of yourself, because we have such high standards for ourselves. Don't allow yourself to cheat yourself from the greatness that is locked up inside of you. Understand also that if you're lonely, turn that into aloneness. Because loneliness oftentimes will make us desperate. We'll receive anything, just willing to grasp a hold of anyone. And oftentimes we will get advice that will not be beneficial for us in the long run. Another thing, understand that critics don't determine your future. They don't. They can criticize all day long, all night long, all year long, but it doesn't determine your future. I say this often: if someone has not invested in you, they don't have the right, they don't have they don't have the pleasure of criticizing you if they have not invested in you. They shouldn't even have. Don't allow them to cause you to stop being the great gift that you are. Don't allow those criticisms to hinder you. And don't allow yourself to be your biggest critic. Don't do that. Blessings to you, woman of God. Don't allow past mistakes to burden you to the point that you become hindered and actually paralyze you from flowing from this season in your life to the next season in your life. You got to understand, though, just like in nature, as every season comes in, you will see a little remnant of the former season. Such as if it's fall, you see leaves on the ground, you see some leaves off of the trees, of course. You start noticing that it's a little cooler and this sort of thing. And you notice that when winter comes in, all of fall has not left yet. But when you are going into your season spiritually, you can't allow any remnant from the other season to come into your life. Cannot do it. You have to break off soul ties from your last assignment. You can't take that into your new assignment. You can't get with people and start matching, comparing bad stories. You can't keep comparing notes of what hurt you, who hurt you, what they did, and all of these things, because your next season has nothing to do with where you've been. And where you going in whatever direction you decided you're going to go to. Like I said, if we're talking about a business, if you had a business that did not take off at first, and you know that your business is in you, it doesn't mean that you have to stop doing business. You may have to stop doing that particular business and go to what he's called you to. Because sometimes you have to redirect yourselves. We have our plans, yes, but God has an ultimate plan for us. He will allow us to ask him for some things sometimes, because we have it in us. The greatness is in us. Creativity is inside of us. So he will allow us to ask him for some things, and he'll even allow you to write it out. Everything. You have your business plan down to the letter, and it will be prosperous. But then you notice that when you try it, it does not happen immediately like you want. Or maybe there were some businesses we know that have been wonderful business, such as Sears and Roebuck, Kmart, and all these other businesses were wonderful. They were powerful forces during the time that they were flourishing. But then their season changed. And then you notice that other businesses came in, such as the Walmart superstores and all these other things. It didn't mean that Sears Roebuck wasn't any good anymore. It didn't mean that Kmart wasn't any good anymore. But their season, that time had shifted. So even in our lives, in our relationships that we have, and our desires that we have to take inventory of what we're doing. Where are we right now? What could be done better? There's any business that would do that. They would sit down and they would talk amongst their leaders. They would find out where we are and where we need to be. And that's what we need to do. But we cannot continue to stay where we were. Like we said before, if you're in your wilderness, realize that when you don't see everything in place, that's not punishment, it's preparation. Because you need to know the ins and outs of being in that wilderness. Because there's always going to be a time where everything is not flowing up front like we would want it. But when you have everything in place, it's solid. You don't have to always have these spurts of demonstration, because you know that everything that you created is on a solid foundation. Another thing, you have to follow your favor. Look at what you do well and continue to do it. That's what we're saying, like where you were before. You can't take that old stuff in where you're going. But what you continue to do well, don't stop. You allow the Lord to then transition you. He would give you new ideas. He may take you to different places. He will put you around different people, because sometimes the people that we want to bring with us are not the ones that He desires to bring with us, because it might hinder you. It'll hinder your gifts. It'll hinder you from flowing like you normally would, because these people are so familiar with you that they know when to touch you. They know how to be critical of you. They know how to continue to put you in check. Yes, allow Him to elevate you. Absolutely. Some people, they can't see past the fact that they know you. But they don't realize there's more to you than what they know. We have to understand that your lots won't stay with you. You know, like with Abraham, he brought his family with him. The Lord didn't tell him to do that. First of all, the Lord told him to leave his homeland and leave his family. Abraham decided to bring his family with him. He brought his father and he brought his nephew, and it created chaos. Eventually his father ended up leaving and staying in a town that was actually named like him. Yes, familiarity. And Lot decided, because what was in him, Lot decided he wanted to go where all the flashing lights were. He wanted to be where he could be recognized immediately. He wanted all the finery. And where he ended up caused much havoc in his life. He ended up in 2 cities that was totally corrupt. Now we know that the religious sector would tell you because of their lifestyle is what caused those cities to be condemned. That's not what the word said at all. The Lord, He understands all of us, and He will forgive us when we come to Him. And then some people don't understand where they are. They feel that where they are, and because of their experiences, is where they need to be. But you have to show love and kindness regardless. And so when the religious sectors were trying to say that these 2 cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, was condemned and annihilated because of one sector lifestyle in their lives, word didn't say that. He said it's because of their idol worship. That tells you clearly He would have forgiven. He understands all of us. These things that we go through in life, we see in everyday life, and the choices that we hear that people are fighting against, is nothing new. All of these were there from even back when Abraham was there. The same fights, the religion, sexual orientations, whether we are going to have racism and all of these things, these was already there. The enemy's trying to divide us. But going back to understand that your lots won't stay with you. Be careful about joining people to your life. You have to pray always. And at the same time, be careful about rejecting people into your life. Because the Lord is not going to send you somewhere in the package that we think they're going to come in. They're always a gift. They'll never look like you think, or they're going to sound like you think, or from the background that you think. If he has your gift for you, prepare yourself to receive it. Because you could be rejecting the best blessing that ever came into your life. We have to get our agendas out of the way. We got so many preferences. We tell the Lord, we want this, we want that. It's got to be just like this. It's got to be that. And notice that while we're doing all that talking, he's silent. He doesn't say a thing. We don't realize it, though, because we're still talking. We get to the point where we say, well, I know you're going to give me the desires of my heart. And we don't realize he will give us the desires of our heart when it's what he desires. Now, if you keep on asking, he'll let you have it. But you won't want it after a while. Another thing we have to understand when we are transitioning out of our season without having bitterness, we have to understand that politics are a misuse of relationships. You will be tempted to bring people along with you for emotional ties in a out of season time. So in other words, there's some people that are in your life for seasons. And when we get so comfortable with them, we'll want to bring them into the new season. And they're not supposed to be there. That's when you're going to cause chaos. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody in your life, that's right, you have to know the difference. And that means you got to pray. That doesn't mean that everybody in your life is there for a season. Some people are in there for a lifetime. But even in every relationship, you have to blend. You got to get to know what the Lord is having for you to do. Otherwise, you become frustrated because you still have your agenda top of the list. Another thing you have to understand when you are in an out of season time, when things are not looking like you want it, you have to sow your way out of that season. That may be your time, your energy, help, cooking. It doesn't mean that you have to have money to sow. But you're constantly sowing your way out of that dry season, that dry place. You're pouring into someone's life, encouraging them. You allowing them to be all that they need to be because you allowing the Lord to use you to be all that you need to be. Going to let's go into trying to find your three. We're going to talk about the benefits of your spiritual development. If you go to Galatians 5, if you have that, Galatians 5 and 22. Let's get that really quickly here. Galatians 5 and 22. I just love it when he just turns everything that you decided that you wanted to do, and he says, nah, I'm not gonna do that. Let's just do this. He's so funny. I love it. I just love it, the way he does things. Yes, indeed. If I can get it here, Galatians 5 and 22 through 23. It says, get it here. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Now, that's one fruit manifested these many ways. Like we talk about, you hear people saying that you know the fruit of the tree by the tree by the fruit it bears. But here we are. You hear all these different attributes, but it's one fruit. Again, it's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. The law is not against such things. Now, those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. If we live by the Spirit, let us also keep in step with the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking one another, envying one another. And that's saying a lot right there. If we have the fruits that he has for us, we can't be bitter. Bitterness is old anger that you hadn't let go of. You hadn't gotten it in check. And we have to get to the point where we are able to communicate with others, because oftentimes we want to go spend money on our counseling session, but our counselor is just right there. We could be talking amongst each other, because generally when you go to a counselor, I honestly tell you this, they're going to listen to you while you talk. You're going to hear you too, because they'll start asking you questions. So how did you feel about that? Now, what did you think when that happened? They're asking you more questions than they're telling you. So that means that you're hearing yourself. And oftentimes your answer is right. You just needed somebody to hear you, and you needed to hear yourself get it clear. That, maybe I shouldn't have done things that way. Or maybe I really should let go of that anger. That's not helping me. And holding on to that anger, when we call it holding grudges, but bitterness is even beyond a grudge. Because it's to the point where you have forgiven, but you choose not to walk in it. You choose to hold it in your mind. That anything that remotely reminds you of where you've been, you're quick to get angry. You're quick to respond in a negative sense. You're bitter. You might not even be bitter to the person you ejecting that off or projecting that off on, because you haven't healed. So while you're transitioning from this season, when you don't see any fruit, you don't see everything coming together like you know that it should be, we have to let go. We have to see ourselves as valuable. And that's difficult if you're hearing all the criticism. You're hearing people very negative. You're hearing people talk about what you used to do and where you've been. And you never going to accomplish anything. That's just really unnecessary. You got to get past that, because they don't understand where you are. They don't understand what's been placed inside of you. So you can't see that at all as they trying to attack you. They just haven't received that revelation of just who you are and what you were called to do. Every inventor has had critics, and they have had some things that just didn't make it. They invented many things beyond. Yes, they're not on your level. You got that. They invented many things beyond the things that you saw that was patent, that became very well known to the populace. They were inventing all the time. There were doctors that have lost patients. Not something that they tried to do. There wasn't a desire. But they have lost patients beyond their control. But if they gave up, they still would have that desire to be a doctor. That's their calling. When they are called into it, not just for money, but because even if they wasn't going to get any money, that's who they are. I guarantee you, even while they were growing up, they had desires of bandaging up wounds, and they were just so into seeing a person healed and wondering what it was going to take to make them feel better, when other people would immediately think about maybe go lie down or take an aspirin or something. This person know that they're called to a higher level of healing. They want to know the ins and outs, what will make that body feel better. They're called to do it. And they're going to get some criticism sometimes, because especially, how you going to do that? You don't have the money or whatever. So many have heard so much negativity. Or maybe someone would say, well, yes, that'll be a good thing for you to do, but you know, you have these gifts too. Why don't you do that? They try to steer you to something that they feel is much more glamorous. Or they'll try to deter you altogether because they're focusing on their desires, not yours. So if you're going to go into business with someone, they have to have that mindset with you, that they have to have that mindset with you that you and they can blend together. I'm sorry about that. Someone is calling in at the same time. I have to get back with them. But you have to know that we got this. Even if you have two different plans, but you know that you two are going to go into business together, you have to know this for sure, that we can work regardless as if anyone know what we're doing or not, if anyone gonna say anything or not. We in this thing regardless of what is going to be, and we're gonna make this thing happen. Now, if you have that much desire in businesses, you have to have that much desire in your relationships. We were listening today to some older people, and one lady in particular, she was saying that she don't want a husband because she don't want to have to cook and clean, and she don't want to have to do this and that. And the amazing thing is she has children though. And one of the gentlemen, he said, well, he was picking at her because they had that label. He said, so you just want your baby daddies? And she said, well, I can't be around someone every day and they looking in my face and I'm so used to my thing, and I might want to watch, he might want to watch some programs, she said, and I might want to watch my westerns. And then everybody said, well, have 2 televisions. She said she has 5 televisions. I said, then you got to understand, marriage is more than what you think it is. It's not a negative at all. If people get into these relationships thinking that that it's work in a negative sense, then that's what it's going to be. But you in it because of covenant. Just like even in your businesses, you have a contract. That's a covenant. We're going to work this thing. We're going to do this. And regardless of what, we're going to put our best effort to make this thing happen. So, what is it going to take to get you to transition and not bring all that other stuff with you? And we're talking about some good stuff. We're not talking about negative. But there are some good things. Every season has some wonderful benefits. In the wintertime, we know that things are covered up. Generally, you have ice and frost and all these things, and it seems like there's nothing growing. Oh, but that is that is your inventory time, because you're working up, you building up things. And when it's time to produce it, when no one sees what's undercover, and all of a sudden you see, right after winter, we have the spring. That's where those blossoms coming out. They start seeing little shoots coming up from the ground that they didn't think was there. Oh my goodness. I tell you, this is an awesome time for us. An awesome time for us. And yes, you know, we're talking about transition. So I have to talk about what's going on in everyday life, of course, and that's what we're doing. And we're going to be talking about what's going on in politics, because we can't help it. We are being influenced, or we have authority over us that is definitely going to influence our decisions. It's going to either be for the betterment or it could hinder a little. But we know that when you're called by the Most High God, that there will be no weapon formed against you that shall prosper. So, where are we? We have, we talked about how we have leaders that were deciding whether or not to impeach our president. And they acknowledged that there were some things that he had done that was definitely inappropriate, is what they're saying. They said it was wrong for him to call foreign leaders and all the things they did, but they didn't see any reason to impeach him. So they're telling the people these things because they want to give an explanation as to why they did what they did. I say, and I have said, since he had become president, that they knew ahead of time that he was not seasoned in that type of arena. He was into business, but he was not used to this type of leadership, and they should have been pouring into him, grooming him, and if he wasn't listening, then they should have really worked harder, because he's representing not just one of us, but all of us from all walks of life. He's representing the United States. And like I said, in the United States, we're a melting pot. So whether those believe in the Lord or not, those who believe in different gods or not, those that believe that the elements are their God or not, those that believe in Satan or not. Everybody that is in this United States, he is representing. That's why we're supposed to be praying for our leaders. So not that he's representing them in a sense of what they believe, but in the truth that they are United States citizens. So what do we do? What do you do at a point at this time where things that should have been done had not been done? And now you see in the repercussions of the failure to implement. That's just like us. We made some decisions that wasn't always what we say kosher. We made some mistakes. Since that, apparently they were deciding that the president is going to, they are going to say that they are going to, some have decided they're going to quit. If that is to be the case, it will behoove the president to decide it's no more business as usual. I am going to do better. I'm not going to do the same old stuff I used to do. That's not working. I don't want to live my life where I have to cover things up. I don't want to have to tell lies. I want to be legitimate. I'm going to walk the straight and narrow. I'm going to be so transparent. I'm going to be a better leader than I was ever in my life, because I'm going to just see past my desires. I'm going to see the fact that I have been chosen and I have been placed in a position where I can be a better leader and help everyone that's under my authority to the best of my ability. Because you're not going to satisfy everyone, no, regardless of what you do, how successful you are. You're not going to satisfy everyone because they don't have your desires. Even in America, there are some things that people just don't want, and it's the betterment for them, but they don't want it. So if you have another chance to get things right, if you have been exonerated, if your seasons were that you were on the top, like we said, and then all of a sudden now you're not, because you're now in a season where it's either do or die. What would you do if you was given another chance to get it right? What would you do? Would you just continue to pretend that it didn't happen in the first place? Would you pretend that is everybody else's problem? Would you also decide that it was somebody else's fault? If they hadn't done this, if they hadn't said that, if you didn't make me do this, if you didn't make me say that, all of these things, would you stay that way, or would you desire to change? So that's what we have to do in this season of transition. We're transitioning from all of that negative, and even out of all of the best, the epitome of greatness, the epitome of success in our lives, where everything was in place, everything was going the way we planned, and even better than what we would have ever dreamt. Now we're at a place where we're not familiar with it. It's not comfortable for us. So what do? Do we get bitter? Because right now, see, bitterness is not always because somebody hurt you. Bitterness could be because the fact that you don't have what you used to have. You're not used to this place you're in. And so you disgruntled, you embittered. Because why? Why would I have to tolerate this? Why do I have to go through this? I'm not used to not having. I'm not used to having to work so hard for what I already had. I work so hard, but yet I see so little. No. You can be embittered because, and then it puts so much pressure on yourself. You stop seeing yourself as the great gift that you are. How? Like we said, you start blaming other people because you don't want to see that it could be something that you did yourself. Some mistake you made, one wrong turn. And see, if you don't see yourself as great, that's when you will put blame on other people, because you feel like, I can't take the fact that I made that mistake. No, you're too great for that. You are an awesome gift that God created. You can handle it. If I made a mistake, I made that mistake, and you want to own it. And you know that just because you made a mistake doesn't make you less than the great gift that you are. It means that you have to decide, how am I going to do better the next time? What is it that I didn't do that I need to do? What is it that I need to stop doing to make things better? Oh, you are a wonderful gift. And it's just a season that you're going through. You haven't been thrown away. The Lord haven't forgotten you. Yes, you might have lost some friends. Loved ones might have turned their back on you because you're not doing things according to the status quo. They may think you've lost your mind because your ideas, they may see that it's a waste of time. They might not even be trying to do anything to help you to achieve the goals that you have set. But don't even get embittered with them. Don't take it as if they're fighting against you, because some could be. Some just probably so caught up on themselves. They're really selfish in there. And your plans have nothing to do with theirs. They don't want to. It's not that your plans are not great. They just don't want to do it. It's going to entail some time. It's going to entail some work. But any great thing, it is going to entail those things. It's how you see that work which makes the difference. Oh, I tell you, I thank God for all of you. I truly do. I'm not going to hold you the entire time. I just want you to know that this time of transition is not going to stay that way always. You've heard of this scripture before, and probably not, but here, and some have, I know, and this in Ecclesiastes, it says, there is an occasion for everything, and a time for every activity under heaven, a time to give birth and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh,
A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to avoid embracing. A time to search and a time to count as lost. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. So that's showing you there's a time for everything. There's a season. And your season may make you feel that you're lonely all by yourself. You may be having to just work it out in your mind and in your spirit. The fact that you made the right choices. You did everything according to plan. And everything was successful for a while, but all of a sudden, beyond your control is no longer there. Or maybe in another situation, it were some things that you did wrong. And now you're seeing the repercussions thereof. Or maybe someone left you, someone tried to sabotage you, they betrayed you, and all of these things. And there's a season, you in that season where you don't see the fruition of all that you worked for. But you're not alone. You have someone that loves you so much that he gave everything for you. He's cheering you on. When you don't see anybody else, he's cheering you on. And he will be there. He said he will stick closer to you than any brother. And he will be there to pick you up when you're down. He will forgive you when you ask him of anything, any and everything. There's nothing too hard for him. Understand, that's what he had gone to do. He had gone to the cross to take the penalty that we deserved. And some would say, why did we deserve it? Because we didn't love him, that we were doing our own thing. He took it and never ever threw it in our faces and never will. So if you're going through a situation that's too hard for you right now, you're hurting too bad, you don't know how to get the words out of your mouth, you don't know how to get rid of that bitterness, just ask him to do it. Trust him. Ask him to do it. I thank you so much for joining me. Those that do stop by every now and then, I see you join, you step in and you step out, and I just love you, and I just thank God for each of you, and I pray for you even though you don't know me. I promised you from day one that I truly do love you, and I do. How can I love someone I don't know, never met? Because he created you. He created you in his image and in his likeness. He said for his pleasure you were created, and you are created. So if he loves you so much, he values you so much, and I am his, and I say that he's my Lord, then I have to love you. It's impossible not to. Oh, I want to thank you again. And just, if you get the time to go over the replay, just understand we're talking about transitioning through your season without bitterness. I love you with all of my heart. I'm going to always tell you that, and this will never change. But this I will also say, and it is more important, God loved you first, and he loved you best. God bless you. Bye-bye. Thank you.